Disease we had not even heard of 25 years ago has made it as the first cause of death for men and women under 60 in the world. There is no precedent for that in our recent history.
Blame myself. I didn't dare first. I didn't dare use the condom first. I was blaming myself about this. I started screaming at accept yourself. Don't blame yourself. If you don't accept yourself, who's going to accept you?
There's a mass extinction occurring on the planet today.
There has never been anything like this in human history. You know, humans have never seen anything like this.
In many ways, it's the biggest crisis since we came out of our caves 10,000 years ago, no less.
Our estimates of how many will be lost if we're on this path are pretty good, and they're really big numbers.
We may well lose half of the world's biological diversity.
When we wipe out populations and species of other organisms, we're sawing off the limb that we're sitting on.
This is something that we have to do now. It's not something that we can postpone to our children or our grandchildren. It's up to us. This is a responsibility that our generation has uniquely.
Once this was a land alive with lions and wolves, jaguars and bears. There were great sharks swimming the seas, and eagles aloft in the air. This was a world patrolled by great predators.
We've underestimated the force of predation in nature. I mean, we almost eliminated it. Restoring this function in nature, I think, is very important. It's one of our biggest challenges to humanity, because the simplest answer, the easiest answer, is to just get rid of them. They are very, very hard animals to live with.
If we have a genetic memory, bees are deeply embedded in that memory because we've been closely associated with this insect from the very beginning, literally millions of years.
Billions of bees began to mysteriously disappear last year.
Something is killing our honeybees in staggering numbers.
The question is it going to happen again? I'm thinking unfortunately, I think it is going to happen again.
All of these problems are solvable. Many of them should have been solved as they came along. Instead, they've been allowed to accumulate and grow, and here we are. We're on the verge of collapse.
In 1992, I was teaching 4th grade, and I showed a video on endangered species and watched my students sink lower and lower in their seats until it was done. And then one boy raised his hand and he said, "Mrs. Rogers, what can we do to help endangered species?"
We all live in a watershed. Somewhere, someplace. This is a story of how a sense of connection to place transformed a community, beginning with the children, beginning with a question.
We've gotten used to circumstances that are really unusual in human history. Circumstances that were really caused by the discovery and use of inexpensive, abundant fossil fuels. The energy in a single gallon of gasoline is roughly equivalent to 12 weeks of hard human labor. Minimum wage is something like $7 an hour. That means a gallon of gasoline really ought to be worth some amazing amount. Now, of course, that's a recipe for collapse and ecological disaster. Can we continue to grow populations, growing per capita consumption rates, growing the rate at which we extract materials from nature forever? Of course not.
Some very exciting and very hip and cool companies.
You know, the government may be pretty foolish, but business is not so foolish.
Right now, green businesses are really sexy.
Sustainability is a value that is very specific to business.
It can't be a lefty, progressive, liberal kind of initiative. This is all of us.
If you're not at the table, then you're on the menu.